Hello, I'm Daniel. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Voice for Knowledge. I don't think people understand the true impact of Hitler's rise and fall. The year was 1939. Europe was a continent on the brink, teetering on the edge of an abyss that would soon engulf the world. A dark cloud hung over Europe, a foreboding sign of the chaos and destruction that was about to unfold. Adolf Hitler, the dictator of Germany, had set his sights on expansion, fueled by a dangerous ideology of hatred and a thirst for power. His speeches, filled with venom and vitriol, rallied a nation behind his twisted vision. His ambition? To establish a vast German empire, the Third Reich, that would last for 1,000 years. Propaganda flooded the streets, painting a picture of invincibility and destiny. With a wave of his hand and the stamp of his will, the world was plunged into the deadliest conflict it had ever seen, World War II. The drums of war beat louder and louder, echoing across continents. Hitler's early victories were swift and brutal. His blitzkrieg tactics left nations reeling, cities in ruins and millions in despair. His armies, fueled by a potent mix of nationalist fervor and military might, stormed through Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands and France. Each conquest was a testament to his ruthless efficiency and strategic genius. The world watched in horror as the Nazi war machine, seemingly unstoppable, crushed everything in its path. The devastation was unimaginable, the human cost incalculable. The world held its breath. In homes and streets, people listened intently to their radios, hoping for a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Could anyone stop this relentless advance? The question lingered in the air, heavy with uncertainty and fear. The answer, a resounding yes, would come not from a single hero but from a global alliance forged in the fires of resistance, an alliance of nations and peoples united by a common cause. This alliance would eventually bring Hitler's reign of terror to an end, restoring hope and peace to a world that had been shrouded in darkness. In June 1941, Hitler made a decision that would change the course of the war. He broke his pact with Stalin, a pact that had been a cornerstone of his strategy to avoid a two-front war, and launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union, codenamed Operation Barbarossa. This was the largest military operation in history, involving millions of troops and thousands of tanks and aircraft. This, he believed, would be the key to securing his dream of a 1,000-year Reich. Hitler was convinced that a swift victory over the Soviet Union would not only provide him with vast resources, but also eliminate a major threat. The vast plains of Russia, rich in resources and ripe for the taking, would fuel his war machine and cement his grip on power. The oil fields of the Caucasus in particular were a highly coveted prize, but Hitler had underestimated the resilience of the Soviet people and the harsh realities of the Russian winter. The Soviet Union, vast and unyielding, presented challenges that the German army was ill-prepared to face. The German advance, initially swift and brutal, soon bogged down in a quagmire of fierce resistance and unforgiving weather. The muddy roads of the Russian autumn and the freezing temperatures of winter took a heavy toll on the invaders. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal turning point, saw the German army suffer catastrophic losses, marking the beginning of the end for Hitler's ambitions in the East. The defeat at Stalingrad shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility and set the stage for the Soviet counteroffensive that would eventually push the Germans back to Berlin. While the Eastern Front raged, another front opened in North Africa, pitting German and Italian forces against the British and their allies. The deserts of North Africa became a battleground, a crucible where the fate of nations hung in the balance. Here, under the scorching sun, the tide began to turn. The tide turned further on June 6, 1944, a date forever etched in history as D-Day. On this fateful day, Allied forces under the command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower launched a massive amphibious assault on the beaches of Normandy, France. This daring operation, a testament to courage and strategic brilliance, marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. Section 4. Strategic Blunders, Hitler's Downfall. Hitler's downfall was not just a result of Allied strength, it was also a consequence of his own strategic blunders. His overconfidence and refusal to heed the advice of his seasoned generals played a significant role in the unraveling of his plans. His decision to open a second front against the Soviet Union, a move that stretched his forces thin and exposed them to the brutal Russian winter. His unwavering belief in his own military genius despite mounting evidence to the contrary, and his refusal to adapt to changing circumstances, and his insistence on micromanaging military decisions all contributed to Germany's defeat. His inability to delegate and trust his commanders led to disastrous outcomes on the battlefield. The more defeats the German army suffered, the more desperate and erratic Hitler's decisions became. The more Hitler retreated into a world of delusion and paranoia. He became increasingly isolated, trusting only a small circle of loyalists. He surrounded himself with yes-men, who were too afraid to challenge his flawed strategies, ignored the advice of his experienced generals, whose insights could have potentially altered the course of the war, and clung to increasingly unrealistic plans for victory. His strategies became more detached from the realities on the ground. His judgment, clouded by hubris and desperation, led to a series of catastrophic decisions that sealed his fate. The once formidable Nazi war machine crumbled under the weight of his miscalculations, led to a series of catastrophic decisions that sealed his fate. Ultimately, Hitler's inability to adapt and his relentless pursuit of flawed strategies brought about his downfall and the end of the Third Reich. Section 5. The walls close in, Germany under siege. By 1945, the war had come to Germany. Allied bombers pounded German cities, reducing them to rubble. The once vaunted Luftwaffe, overwhelmed by Allied air power, could only watch as the skies rained fire. On the ground, Soviet troops, fueled by a thirst for revenge and a yearning for justice, pushed relentlessly westward, while Allied forces advanced from the west, squeezing the life out of the Nazi war machine. The German people, once promised 1,000 years of prosperity and dominance, now faced the harsh realities of defeat. Their cities lay in ruins, their armies shattered, their dreams of a glorious future turned to ash. Section 6. The bunker Hitler's last days. As the Allied armies closed in on Berlin, Hitler retreated to his underground bunker, a symbol of his crumbling regime. Isolated and delusional, he refused to accept the reality of his defeat, clinging to the hope that somehow, miraculously, Germany would prevail. But the writing was on the wall. On April 30, 1945, with Soviet troops just blocks away, Hitler committed suicide, ending his reign of terror and bringing the curtain down on the Nazi regime. His dreams of a 1,000-year Reich lay in ruins, a testament to the folly of hatred and the enduring power of hope. Section 7. The legacy of a dictator, a world transformed. The world emerged from the ashes of World War II, forever changed. The war had claimed millions of lives, leaving behind a landscape of physical and emotional scars. But from the ashes of destruction rose a new world order, one dedicated to preventing the horrors of the past from ever happening again. Hitler's legacy, a toxic brew of hatred, violence, and destruction, serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance in the face of intolerance. His downfall, a testament to the courage and resilience of the human spirit, reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can triumph over hate.